news the deployment of around 16,000 mercenaries from Syria and other parts of the Middle East into the Ukrainian conflict zone. Our Washington correspondent Simon Marks says the US government is trying to interpret the Russian leader's decision.
On the one hand, that's obviously very concerning, and we've known that Vladimir Putin has been offering mercenaries from Syria and from other countries 6-month contracts to move to Ukraine and act as what the Russians are describing as guards, but clearly they're not being planned to go to Ukraine to act as sort of building custodians. They're specifically, the Russians, looking for people who are skilled in combat in both urban and rural terrains.
The Ministry of Defense says Russian troops are now 25 kilometers from Kiev. Satellite images from the US show a convoy of Russian vehicles moving closer to the capital. US and UK intelligence suggests Russian air and missile strikes are now also targeting cities in the west of Ukraine. Ukraine's president says Russian troops have kidnapped the mayor of the southern port city of Melitopol. Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia has moved into a new stage of terror.
In Melitopol, the invaders captured mayor of the city, Ivana Fledov, a mayor who courageously defends Ukraine and the people of his community. Obviously, this is a sign of weakness of the invaders.
And Downing Street are expected to outline plans to ban exports of luxury goods to Russia. Details will be coming out in the following days. LBC weather, mostly cloudy in northern areas with showery outbreaks of rain. Southern areas will be drier with some sunshine, a high of 13 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lottie Morley.
At TalkTalk, we know some things are better faster, like our ultra-fast full fibre with speeds right up to 900 megabits per second. New speeds, same great value. It just makes sense. TalkTalk for everyone. There, that was so fast you have more time to relax.
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to continue towards Tons Lane, A355. Keep right. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London, Heathrow Airport. In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4. Continue on M4 for 9 miles.
actually fought for his country and was incredibly, fearing, but also humiliating for the military that is losing a lot of men here, and acknowledging this. Because 3 generals killed on the front line, and I keep 3 generals. The generals aren't supposed to die in war, they're supposed to be sitting back in their armchairs, smoking cigars. So it's having an impact. And then, of course, sanctions. I think that let's not underestimate the power of these sanctions to completely mess up the life of not just oligarchs, but also middle-class Russians who've got really rather used to buying Louis Vuitton bags and going off to Dubai to go on holiday. That's all over.
Well, Matt, it's interesting because where are they getting their information from as a population, be it the middle class, the oligarchs, if there are any that remain there and haven't hidden somewhere else, and where is the information coming from for ordinary people? Good to speak to you, Matt. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Once again, stay safe. 7:12 is the time. Colonel Patrick Mercer is with me, former Colonel of the British Army, former Conservative Shadow Homeland Security Minister. Colonel Mercer, thank you for your patience. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew. Please call me Patrick.
Patrick, when you see the scenes unfolding in Ukraine and you hear Joe Biden and others explaining, probably very sensibly, why these jets can't be delivered, or we can't go in, and you cannot have the possibility of NATO, US taking on Russians face to face. What do you think?
A couple of things, if I may, Andrew. First of all, I know this area very well. I spent a long time in Ukraine and Russia, and I talk to people in Russia most days about this. So the information I'm receiving from my friends and former colleagues down there is probably very, very different from the sort of things that you've just been reflecting on.
Okay.
And on that side, some of which are extremely interesting. I think the most important thing, as you said, answering your question is, are we, the West, England, and actually in Scotland at the moment, are we prepared to die for Ukraine? Now that's the $1,000 question, because there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that if we materially get involved inside this war, then we will watch an escalation to the sort of thing that I was brought up to understand and was trained for back in the 1970s, 80s and 90s. In other words, massive Russian retaliation, which probably, in reality, won't involve nuclear weapons. Those are funny old-fashioned...
In 2 miles, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
Which will do the same sort of execution without the same sort of physical damage to the infrastructure.
Are you expecting chemical and biological weapons to be used by Russia on a city or several cities in Ukraine?
I think it is possible. There is certainly a precedent for these sorts of weapons being deployed on the battlefield, but I don't think we should discount the fact that, of course, every sort of tactical norm that we're looking at that the Russians are using, the Ukrainians have been taught to do exactly the same thing, and of course until relatively recently were part of the same armed forces. Well, we're hearing that there's the possibility of Ukraine being armed with chemical and biological weapons. I really don't know whether that is true. But I think my answer would be more general than the specific one you put to me. Am I expecting the use by someone of those sorts of weapons? The answer is yes, I am.
Well, we've already had biological weapons used by Russia on our territory in Salisbury.
Yep, we certainly have,
and in Syria as well. The scenes,
absolutely,
as the red line was crossed, but the House of Commons voted for what? Nothing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We absolutely voted for nothing, and I think that's important that we understand that this monstrous idea of chemical and biological weapons is pushed very much to the front. I think there is an understanding from people that the use of nuclear weapons is good night Vienna, literally and metaphorically. We won't be coming back from that one. Chemical and biological weapons, much more flexible, will leave the infrastructure in place and will do the same sort of execution without necessarily triggering the same reaction in either in world audiences, if I can use that dreadful phrase.
I can't believe what I'm hearing, actually, and it's It is like being
In a quarter of a mile at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
for us.
The next move for us is to stop being deluded about the fact that the Russian campaign is somehow morally and physically coming to an end. It's not. It's
Exit at junction 3.
noticeable everything that flight was saying, and many, many, many other Western observers, is that nobody is talking about the area where Russia is really...
In a quarter of a mile at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312.
That's in the eastern option Crimea, in the central southern part of what used to be Ukraine now. Some people say Russia, and heading towards Odessa. That's where the Russians actually are very satisfied with the progress that they're making. What's next for them is an assault on Odessa, the sealing of the whole of the Black Sea coast as far as Ukraine is concerned, and then possibly, in my opinion, an invasion of Moldova, which will strategically encircle the central part of Ukraine. What's next for us, I fear, is more of the same. In other words, standing back with our fingers in our mouths, saying this is dreadful and doing really very little.
Patrick Masser, thank you. Former Colonel in the British Army, former Conservative Shadow Homeland Security Minister. Can the West intervene more? Or are the warnings and the admonitions that you hear, both from Matt and from Colonel Masser there, enough for you to accept that we're just going to
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
and there's nothing more we're going to do than we are now? It's 034560600973. And as Matt was saying earlier, the Chinese Premier has described the situation in Ukraine as disconcerting.
Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
Their position on Russia, or does it? What could that mean for Putin and for Russia going forward? Surely China are going to be looking at this and eyeing up Taiwan. We must have, or Putin must see our reaction in the West, and China must observe that and wonder whether or not Taiwan is something they want to progress with, because they want to take that back as they see it, right? Even though it's a democracy. Analysis on China after the news. Lottie Moore.
The US president says if NATO sent soldiers to Ukraine to fight Russia, it would lead to World War III. Russian President Putin has authorized the deployment of thousands of troops from countries in the Middle East. The Ministry of Defense says Russian troops are now 25 kilometers from the Ukrainian capital of Kiev. LBC weather, cloudy in northern areas, dry and sunny in the south, a high of 13 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are delays on the M4 going out of town. It's down to one lane because of a police investigation between the M25 and junction 54 Langley. That also means that on the M25 clockwise, the exit slip road at junction 15 for the M4 stays closed. On the M4 heading out of town, there are also queues because a car has broken down between junction 3 for Hayes and junction 4 for Heathrow, so one lane is closed. There are delays on the M20 westbound. It's partly blocked after junction 2 for Rootham because of an accident. And in Walthamstow on the North Circular Road eastbound, the entry slip road at the Crooked Billet interchange is partly blocked. That's because of an accident, so it's now taking around 45 minutes to queue through from the Coney Hatch interchange.
This is LBC.
Is your business truly unlimited? At 3, we think it should be. Whether you want to connect a team of 10 or 200, our business SIMs offer unlimited calls, texts, and data, all for just £7.50 each. Plus, with no data caps, when we say unlimited, we mean unlimited. Search 3 Business.
In a quarter of a mile at Wagoners Roundabout, take the 2nd exit and stay on the Parkway, A312.
VAT terms apply. c3.co.uk/terms/business. 30 million people around the world are just like me.
I value being able to
Easily build an investment portfolio.
I value knowing my investment firm
Has been recommended by which?
3 years in a row.
And I value knowing I'm with a company that's picked clients first for over 45 years.
join the 30 million investors around the world who value getting Vanguard value.
Hey, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Vanguard. Value to investors. When investing, your capital is at risk.
Everyone can make little...
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway. Continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
I help fuel my truck. Or recycling my used McCafe car at McDonald's.
to make a birthday card for me. Thanks, Dad.
It's the start of a plan to recycle and reuse even more. Because we know when you change a little, you change a lot.